Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Review Realm once again. Another album review for you. If you are new to the show, please hit the like button on this, subscribe to the Review Realm. It really helps us out with all of our album reviews, interviews, etc. You can find us on most streaming platforms, along with YouTube, including Spotify, among others. Links are in the description. Thanks for tuning in with us. And as always, joining me for these album reviews, the SLB himself, Sam.
Hey guys, John and I are just reviewing bands this year that either we've been fans for a long time or we've known of who we've never dug into. And this today, again, is one of the latter, which I've been enjoying. So,
Yes, this is another band that, we've always, known about them and just never really sat down and listened to them. It's kind of one of the bands that just flew under the radar, but they've put out a lot of material and they've been out for a while. Of course, we're talking about Corrosion of Conformity and their 11th album. It's the first album since 2018. And Sam, I didn't know this was a double album until I put it out this morning. But yes, this is a double album. Good God, Bad Man.
so I listened to the album thinking, oh, it's just an album. It's been, I think about 14 songs on here. It's an hour long. And I didn't know until I went to the Wikipedia page because Spotify doesn't clarify. It just has it all tracked as one.
Yep. Yeah, so let me tell you right off the bat, when I found out this was a double album and this was over an hour, I said, "Oh God." I didn't know anything about it, but I saw that and I said, I think the experience I had with Black Label Society, I know these two are very similar, and I was not very impressed with that. And I'll say right off the bat with this album, I couldn't wait for this to be over.
All right. There were some things I enjoyed about this. First and
Yeah.
foremost, I do want to clarify when you had brought this up when we reviewed Black Label. You're like, "Oh yeah, they're very similar." Up until that point, the name Corrosion of Conformity does not come off as a blues metal style band or a southern metal band. I'm like, "Oh, we're going to be reviewing an old school death metal band." Because that sounds like a death metal band name.
No, it
So,
it does. You're right.
so, um, I had a little different experience. I do have a lot of. It's not my favorite. There are things I really like on it, and then there's other things I don't. And just so I'm clear for everybody listening, when I say it sounds like this kind of band, I'm not saying that they were influenced by these bands. I understand this band goes back to 1982, I believe. But my overall takeaway on the sound of this album, John, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, it was a weird mix between like Mastodon meets Clutch meets Black Sabbath, and sometimes it mixed them all together, and they all didn't sound the same.
No, I that's funny you mentioned that. I wrote something like that, with the first song, Good God, Final Dawn. I said, yeah, it
Mhm.
reminds me a lot of Mastodon.
Yep.
And then the first song on the second part of this album, Bad Man, I said, okay. I thought this half might be a little bit better. It reminded me a lot of Clutch.
Yeah.
It's exactly we really think the same way in a lot of ways, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there were some. I don't. They this one was weird. This one had one single. Give me
Yeah.
some more.
And
Uh,
I thought with Gimme Some More, I said, why does it again, I don't know this band very well, so it wasn't until I dove into, like, who does what in this band. I know Pepper Keenan is, like, the main vocalist, but a couple of other
mhm,
guys do backing vocals too, and I said, "Why does it sound like a totally new vocalist every song?"
mhm.
I can't tell who's who, um, and and that gave me some more. I'm like, "What are these lyrics?" It was a weird one.
Yeah, so like I did enjoy the first two songs on disc one. We'll start there. Good God, Final Dawn. Again, very Mastodon, a little bluesy, a little bit of Clutch like sprinkled in. Um, I want to jump to the handler because Give Me Some More is fine. It was like, okay, single. The handler sounded like an old school Black Sabbath song.
Mm.
However, I did not enjoy this song. There was something about it. Like I understand it felt like I was listening to like
I didn't either.
Ozzy. It's weird. It was like the Black Sabbath, early Black Sabbath Ozzy stuff that I don't care for. But it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I pretty much wrote the same thing for the handler. I did not enjoy that album. And then Bodwin's Hand, just a slow transition track. Run for Your Life was a little bit better. It was more up the alley of like that stoner rock.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know why it was 9 minutes long though. I was like, Jesus.
No, I did kind of enjoy it. The opening riff. Okay, I had this with the last album I couldn't figure out. The opening riff of this song, I listened to it over and over again and it sounded like something I knew. And as I'm driving home, I'm like playing it in my head, playing it in my head, playing it in my head. Figured it out. The opening riff of this, go back and listen to it and then listen to Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
Okay.
Because the opener says na 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 with like a guitar. You strip that, you hear that song. Just I don't know. I wanted to point that out, but yeah, I enjoyed this song.
I smell a copyright claim. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, that's pretty much yeah, that's most of what makes up of this one. Good God. Bad Man, it was a little bit better. Like I know it just had that quick transition track in there, Mandra Sonos.
Mhm.
It really what solidified the second my thoughts on the second from the second half of this album. I said this genre just really all blends together. It, it's hard for me to distinguish like between the different songs. Like like unless I listen to it again, I probably could not pick out one of these songs.
Um, it's interesting. I think this is why every so often I put on an album from like southern metal or a blues metal or a popular metal band and it sounds fresh because we do listen to you and I listen to a lot of like heavier metal, death metal, metalcore. And at
Yeah.
times that stuff can sound repetitive too. But then you go back to this other stuff, and you're like, all right, cool. This is kind of fresh. I haven't heard stuff like this in a while. And then you start listening to albums and then you're like, oh, it all sounds the same. Everything on it's why I hate email music. We won't go there, but regardless, the one song, so Bad Man was a good opener. I did enjoy Lose Yourself. I did not care for Sleep on the Killing Floor. My favorite
Mm.
song actually on the whole album, both discs, was Brickman.
Brickman, I said, wow, I said actually something acoustic. That's the one that felt a little bit that was the one probably I would be able to pick out. I said,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, this is different. Acoustic that had it. The album hadn't done that the whole entire time, and I would probably agree with that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, there was something about it. It just stuck out. I'm surprised that wasn't a single. Like that's, but yeah, I don't hate the album. And again, I've never listened to anything else from them prior, so I'm kind of curious where this weighs in. And let us know in the comments below what you think and where this album weighs in with their other material.
Right. Yeah. It felt like this album tried to go in a lot of different directions, but again, I feel like it just this stuff just blends together too much for me. Like this, you had a random soul singer in Forever Amplified, which I thought was neat. Um, but again, I don't know. I don't know the band well enough. You and I don't know the band well enough to I think um, enough to share our initial thoughts. But I think that's why the comment section probably help us out a little bit and see where this lines up in their discography. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right, that's our thoughts, pretty much on Corrosion of Conformity and their new double album. Let us know in the comments what you think. Tell us why we're wrong about this album. We definitely want to know. Thanks for tuning in to the review realm. Once again, we will see you again very soon. And as always, do not forget to join the Bedlam.